The U.S. Air Force is sending 60 B-52 Stratofortress bombers to Diego Garcia, a military hub that acts as a strategic location for operations in both the Middle East and the Pacific. Citing a U.S. official, CNN on Monday reported that the Cold War-era bomber will be available for operations against Iran if ordered. For operational security, we are not discussing forces flowing into or out of the U.S. Central Command area of responsibility at this time, Pentagon spokeswoman Commander Rebecca Reberich told Military.com in response to a request for comment. Diego Garcia, like Andersen Air Force Base, Guam, and Al Udeid Air Force Base, Qatar, has the ability to house B-52s with flight lines and airfields that can accommodate the aircraft's size. B-52s frequently deploy to those bases for continuous bomber presence missions, or to act as a reassuring overwatch and SID alert in case of conflict. B-52s also routinely launched from Diego Garcia to conduct missions in Afghanistan following. But following President Donald Trump's order for an airstrike that killed Quds Force Maj General Qasem Soleimani last week, Iran has threatened to retaliate by striking U.S. forces in the Middle East. Rocket attacks on Saturday hit Baghdad's Green Zone, which houses the U.S. Embassy. Another rocket attack hit Balad Air Base, where U.S. troops are stationed, according to Iraq's military and state media. No U.S. injuries were reported. Soleimani was killed at Baghdad's international airport last week in what U.S. officials called a decisive defensive action to protect American personnel and diplomats in the Middle East. He has been charged by the U.S. as the mastermind behind attacks that killed hundreds of U.S. troops since the 2003 invasion of Iraq. While the latest deployment may act as extra support, it's not the first time the Defense Department has sent a B-52 bomber task force to the region in recent months as a response to Iran. Four long-range, heavy bombers from the 20th Bomb Squadron, out of Barksdale Air Force Base, Louisiana, arrived at Al Udeid Air Base, Qatar, on May 8, 2019. The bombers conducted patrols over the Persian Gulf alongside F-15 Eagles and F. 3-5A Joint Strike Fighters for weeks before more firepower was added to the region in subsequent months. Once the amphibious assault ship B-52, which is moving toward the Middle East, arrives, the U.S. will have added roughly 10,000 personnel to the area within the last week, according to the Wall Street Journal. Donald Trump could order airstrikes on Iran from the British overseas territory of Diego Garcia without asking for permission from the UK government, Downing Street acknowledged on Tuesday. The U.S. deployed 60-range B-52 bombers to the Indian Ocean base as part of its preparations for possible conflict with Iran. No orders have been given yet to strike, but Mr. Trump has threatened to hit 52 Iranian targets, including cultural heritage sites, if Iran attacks US forces in retaliation for Soleimani's death. The U.S. runs a secretive airbase from Diego Garcia, and the British government has little to no control on what operations the American military runs from the island. The base on Diego Garcia is 2,400 miles from southern Iran, meaning it is within flying range for the strategic American bombers but beyond the reach of most Iranian missiles. Diego Garcia is the largest of a string of small islands that Britain retained control of in the 1960s, even as it granted independence to other islands that would become the nation of Mauritius. Britain said it was necessary to retain control of the islands for security reasons. Diego Garcia was leased to the U.S. soon after, and the American military has since built a sprawling military facility on the island. The CIA used the territory at least twice in 2002 to transport detainees between black site interrogation centers in the aftermath of September 11th. The UK government at first denied any involvement in the US Extraordinary Rendition Program before eventually acknowledging that Diego Garcia was used as a transport hub. The Pentagon has sent around 3,500 additional soldiers to the Middle East since Iranian-backed militias briefly laid siege to the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad last week. A total of around 14,000 additional US troops have been sent to the region since tensions with Iran spiked in May, and the U.S. said it had evidence of Iranian plans to attack American ships in the Gulf.